joined by Mayor of Dubbo Regional Council, Matthew Dickerson. How are you today?
Good, thank you, Rod. How are you going?
Good. A bit of water around the area.
That is the major thing to talk about today, Rod. It's water, water and water. Not since 2010 have we had to close Sarisia Bridge. It gives you some idea of just how much water there is around at the moment. And when you look at the water that's flowing everywhere, it does really just give you an idea of how impacted we are once that river starts to come up. So Sarisia Bridge has been closed. It was closed over the weekend. And of course, as you and your listeners would know, that's the second river crossing across the Macquarie River. So as you come down the Newell Highway, that's normally the crossing that most people go across for the Newell Highway. If we go back to 2010, the last time we had to close that, the congestion to get across the LH Ford Bridge turned into an hour and a half, sometimes even longer than that at different times of the day. At this stage, the traffic isn't horrific. It's pretty bad at the moment, but it was closed on the weekend, so at least the traffic wasn't so bad. But this morning, the lineups have been out as far as Burke Hill, but people are still getting across the LH Ford Bridge, so that's been good. And we put out a bit of a message to people to say, if you can work from home, or if you can change the time of your start time at work, for example, just come in staggered times to try and reduce the amount of congestion on that LH Ford Bridge. But of course, school kids are going back to school today. It's the first day after the school holidays, so that doesn't help with some additional traffic there. So it really is about just hoping that we can keep people flowing, keep traffic flowing, keep businesses open where possible. Obviously, many have been having to close or haven't been able to open due to traffic conditions change. And obviously, the number one priority, Rod, is keeping people safe.
Yeah, and a little bit of carpooling wouldn't be a bad idea either, because that takes halves the transport at times.
Yeah, you're right, carpooling, or if there's another way you can get to work, if you can walk to work. Even a couple of weeks ago, there was a function on out at the zoo, so we thought that we might have had to close the Sarisia Bridge on that particular night. So I actually rode my push bike out to the zoo, donned up in my suit and wore that out there with my helmet on and rode out to the zoo. As it turned out, we didn't need to close down the Sarisia Bridge, but if you can ride your bike to work, for example, that's another good way to get to work if you've got to get across that bridge. Just coming up with some ways to try and minimise the number of people that have got to go across LH Ford Bridge will help everyone that does have to go across that bridge. So, yep, carpooling is another great idea.
All right, and there's more rain planned for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Can you stop swearing at me, please, Rod, with saying things like rain and more rain? That's the last thing we want to hear at this stage, obviously. We're really hoping to get the river down, or hoping to see the river go down a bit and just start to open up some more of these roads. As at 6 o'clock this morning, the river had dropped to 7.46 metres, so that had come down a bit. It's usually around that level or just below that we can probably start to see the water only lapping across the Sarisia Bridge. But even once we get the water below Sarisia Bridge, then we've got to clean it up and make sure it's safe for traffic to go back across there. So we want to get that water down and try and get some of these roads open. So the last thing we want to hear about, Rod, thank you very much, is more rain.
And what's being done to address the situation in the future?
Obviously, there's the River Street Bridge that's going to be constructed, or construction has started on that, and that gives us somewhat a secondary crossing across the Macquarie River so that we won't have to rely just on the Sarisia Bridge. The unfortunate part about the River Street Bridge is that the entrances on both sides of the river still go underwater in a flood, so there's got to be detours in place, but at least there are two crossings across the river. But apart from that, Rod, really, it does come down to nature, and we all know with climate change we're going to see more extreme variations in weather conditions. So even though it's been 12 years since the last time the Sarisia Bridge closed, maybe it'll be less time in the future when Sarisia Bridge closes again. But again, it's more than just that. It's about the water that's going up into Bligh Street, about the water that's going over the pedestrian crossings, the pedestrian bridges across the river, a whole range of areas there. And there's not a lot we can do about all of those, because when the rain comes, the river eventually starts to spread out.
And what about the rest of the council area? What's it looking like?
You've got a few things there, so I'll just run through a couple of them, Rod. Obviously, the Sarisia Bridge I've mentioned is closed. Bligh Street is closed. We've also got some changed traffic conditions down Cobra Street with some of the side streets, just limiting the traffic that can come in from those side streets to try and reduce that congestion. And then if you go to Wellington, the Renshaw McGurr Way is closed. That's at the Bell River crossing. So that one there is closed. That's been closed a few times over the last month or two. The Duke of Wellington Bridge is closed, and that one will probably remain closed for some time because we're worried about the entrances to the Duke of Wellington Bridge there. Some of the riverbanks have collapsed there with some erosion. Saxa Road is closed, and all unsealed roads in Dubbo Regional Council area are closed only with access to local residents, and they've got to be in passenger vehicles under 3.5 tonnes. So that's pretty significant, Rod. All unsealed roads are closed.
All right, well, we'll let you get back onto the job, and we'll hopefully talk to you in a few days.
Thank you, Rod. Appreciate your time.